Buddy, Adam Arkfeld, and today I'm going to talk about how to quickly assess and look over an AdWords campaign. A lot of times when we're working these campaigns, we make a number of changes, or someone else makes changes, or we take over a new account, and sometimes it can be a little difficult to determine how the campaign is actually performing. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to walk through how I typically look at campaigns to see if they're performing, not performing, and actually find in this case, this is a campaign that seems like it's doing okay and seems like it's performing historically well, but actually has a little bit of a hiccup in it that we identified when looking at it closely. All right, so what I look at most often are this graph feature here at the top, and this graph feature is really helpful to show trends and just see where things are going. Also, AdWords recently added this notes feature, which allows you to show different changes that you're making, when you made the changes, and then see how those changes impact the performance of the campaign kind of in real time by seeing when the change was made and then seeing how the trends change. All right, so this campaign is for an electrician, and we're running it at $500 a day, but some of these are kind of over budgeted. But it's about $500 a day is what it spends. And when we look at this chart, it's from July 1st to August 13th. It looks like basically the account is doing fine, right? So this is the clicks metric. And if I were to look at this account and look at the clicks, I wouldn't see anything unusual. And what I typically like to do when I'm diagnosing an account is I like to go through various metrics that I know are important and just make sure that, that it's performing the way I expect. And so I really go through a lot of these, right? So it's like, all right, I'm looking at impressions. This is all the search campaigns. Looks pretty standard to me. It looks pretty normal. And then I might check out like average cost per click, and it's like, yeah, these are kind of in the neighborhood of $11. You know, pretty good. Like nothing's really jumping out, right? I mean, yeah, it bumps up, but it bumps back down too. So if you want to get a little bit better, if you want to get a little bit better flow as far as the trend, you can do the weekly view. And that kind of shows you, there's really not that much changing here. Even this piece up here at the end, this is the week of August 13th. Today's the 13th, so it's only really pulling, a half day's worth of data because I'm doing this in the afternoon. So this shows a more smoothed out trend line. So I'll switch between weekly, I'll switch between daily. If I'm really doing a long trend, I might switch to monthly. And I'll play around with these metrics, right? And so performance here, this is if I want to know how an account's spending, then I'll look at this metric. Everything looks pretty consistent. We have been changing some budgets in this account, so nothing big. And I will kind of go through each one of these. Not necessarily in every account every time I'm looking at it, but when you're working an account for a while, you basically know what to look for, right? So like how this account, maybe the impression share changes, or maybe the cost per click is something that you're paying attention to. So this trend line here is very, 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 very important. It's something I use all the time. It's become even more important with this notes feature, and adding a note is really easy. You hover over, you hit, well, I guess actually if you click it, you hit add note, and now I can add a note for a change that I made on this date, and then see how it changes. Now, so those are the performance metrics, and then I might go down to conversions. And there's two different types of conversions. There's all conversions, and then there's just regular conversions. So the difference is that conversions are the conversions that you have decided when you're setting up your conversions that you want to show in the conversions column. So you have to specifically select, I want this type of action to be a conversion, and then it shows up in conversions, or you have to deselect it. I'm not sure which is the default. All conversions is all conversions. So you might say, I don't want this to show in the conversions column. However, you have the ability to view those conversions. So you really want to look at conversions almost in all cases, unless you know what you're looking for with the all conversions. Because the reason you're pulling all conversion out of the conversions column is because for some reason it's not relevant. Like it might be a white paper download, or someone clicked some sort of link, or someone did something that's not really, really revenue generating. And so all conversions can be a little bit misleading. It can make your cost per conversion look really low. All right, so I'm gonna hit conversions here. And again, I'm looking at this chart, and I know this account pretty well. And so it kind of bumps around, right? Like these are all the conversions. So 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, blah, blah, blah. And then we get to here, and this is a note that a number of changes have been made, and it was a bit of a spike on that day. Let's see if I can get the note up. Sorry, I'm getting a bit of a delay for some reason. Well, that's fun. All right, so I can't see the note, but this note says there were a number of changes made on this day, right? There were 19 conversions. We had a spike. And then it dropped the next day to 8, which is not really out of line with historicals. And then it goes to 10 and 9 and then 7. And this is a Sunday and then 6. And you see that it continues to drop lower and lower. And then we're back here. And when we were looking at this account on August 9th on a Thursday, the trend had just been continually going down since that change right here. Sorry about all the pop-ups. So that's really not good. And so then we start looking at some things a little bit closer. So I go into all electrical services. It's kind of all of our services under one campaign. Again, I'm on clicks here. So I'm going to switch it over to conversions. Just a second. Conversions. All right. And I see that in this campaign, basically our conversions have really, really, really slowed down. Now, you might be looking at this thinking, well, but there are a lot of drops in the conversions. Like, is it really slowed down? And here, this is the weekend, so you expect, historically, the campaigns have always dipped on the weekends. Here it's a little bit higher. It's a little bit higher on the weekend, but throughout the week, especially in the midweek, it's typically been, anywhere between 5 and 8 conversions, 5, 4 here, but up to 10. But on this week, after we made these changes, it went low, and then it continually went back down. And then on Thursday, it was just, 3 conversions for like the last 3 or 4 days, and that's just not good. So what we actually ended up doing, and the note is on the account level, not the campaign level, we reverted the changes here, and we saw conversions come right back up on Friday, Saturday. Sunday's typically a low day. And then on Monday, that's today, we're only partway through the day, and CallRail actually has a delay in reporting. So this will typically catch up, or it may just be a low day because we kind of overspent on Saturday. So basically, I went through this entire conversation, and you'll notice that we never went down here into the ad groups. We never looked at keywords. We never looked at ads. We didn't look at cost per clicks. We just looked at this chart, and this chart shows the trends. This chart is, for me, if you're doing kind of quick analysis and just quick updates on your account, this chart just shows if you're doing well or not. And so I use this really extensively. I'll also compare, with different, so I'll look at, the interesting thing about this account is that the clicks, geez, I have a little bit of a delay, killing me, is that the clicks didn't really change. However, the quality of the traffic changed dramatically. And some of the changes that we had made were kind of adding negatives that were fairly relevant keywords to certain ad groups, like siphon traffic into certain ad groups. And it just didn't work. And I don't know why it didn't work. The logic behind the changes made sense. But as we can see here, the cost per lead went, the number of leads went down, the conversions went down. And for 4 days of the last week, it went down. And that's just really not a good trend to be seeing. So we reverted back, and then it went back up. And so the changes that we made at this peak and basically at this valley indicate that the changes we made weren't working. Now, I don't even know exactly why they weren't working, but when I just look at clicks or I just look at impressions, it just seems like it's fine, but it's not. And that's also why having conversion tracking set up correctly is so important, integrating with a platform like CallRail and making sure that data is feeding in. So there you have it. That's how I personally like to go in and look at accounts and get a good feel for how they're performing very quickly. And I kind of live in that chart, and I find that it's been, or that graph, and I find that it's been a really helpful and a really easy way to look at account performance just by the core metrics they give you, instead of going down here in the bottom and in the ad groups and in the ads and just like spending all this time on all those numbers that just really aren't helping. So I hope that helps you out a little bit if you're looking at accounts. As usual, like the video if it's been helpful, or comment below with any questions, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks a lot.